alongside. Do I have to? I'm trying. Oh, I have to use YouTube live chat online. Oh well, we'll use that. So hello everybody, if you are watching. Of course, there's a 20-second delay to us to the live stream, so that's why we're probably sat there waiting for it to start, and it hasn't actually yet. But hopefully, it's getting there. We'll just leave it for a bit, and it'll get started.
I think no, we are live. I think.
Good.
I think we are.
That's good. Oh yes, we are. How exciting! And there's 8 people watching. It's a great start. Cool. Well, hello to the early people today. As straight away my software has decided to have a little glitch. Apologies for David's glitched up Skype picture. Don't ask me why it's doing that, but it is. I will attempt to fix that. Do you want to fill some time for us, David, and say hello to everybody? And
hello. What do you mean about picture?
So sometimes my software does this thing where the picture gets smaller or bigger, and so it doesn't fill the frame like it's supposed to do. It just for some reason randomly glitches out, and I have to fight again.
I can see that now.
Yeah, it's very strange. So I fixed it for now, but I'll probably have to refix it again. Andrew's loving the action figures. You certainly have made a good choice. I mean, yeah, we're getting into the spirit of the 50th anniversary by bringing in. Well, is that 4 doctors from the Day of the Doctor? That's the question, or is there only 3 doctors there?
This is the thing. Who knows?
Who really is the curator?
There might be 5 doctors that I don't think.
I can't see. We can't see that doctor.
Oh, can you not?
There. No, can't see him at all.
It's not on the frame. We've got the 10th Doctor.
Oh yes.
It's technically a 50th anniversary figure because it was released on the 50th anniversary.
Okay. Fair enough.
But there we go. So
very cool. Very cool. And you got. I've got that. I have that Doctor Who mug as well.
Do you?
Yeah, that's the heat changing one, isn't it?
Yeah. That was my Secret Santa present. Big.
Megan's dad got me that for Christmas. Which is pretty cool. So yes,
very nice.
Shout out to Megan if you're watching. She said she might be watching. So one rule is we can't give major Capaldi spoilers because she hasn't seen it yet.
Okay. Cool.
But we're obviously talking about 50th anniversary, so it's not really relevant to Capaldi anyway and she's already seen his eyebrows and the first episode, so we're all fine. So hello to the 16 people watching so far, which is great news. 17 now. Today, as hopefully you guys have seen on my channel so far, I'm doing a 50th anniversary week. I'm aware that it's nowhere near the 50th anniversary, the anniversary of Doctor Who. I mean, yesterday though was the half anniversary. The 56.5 years anniversary.
Momentous occasion.
So I feel like it's the tenuous enough link. And as a lot of you guys know, of course, I'm sure with Megan Reacts, we are getting very near to the Day of the Doctor, the 50th anniversary special. In case you missed it, please do go and check out after the stream, but go and check out the Name of the Doctor reaction that went up last night. And over the coming week, there's lots more exciting videos to come. We've got this stream today where we're talking all things 50th anniversary, then a reaction to the 5-ish Doctors reboot, which should be a fun one. I'm not sure quite how Megan's going to take it because she might just not understand any of it, or it might be great. Who knows? Then also Night of the Doctor, because I know you all guys want to see that. There's a Doctor Who pub quiz on Friday night before the Day of the Doctor. Megan Reacts on Saturday night. So yes, today we're going to be talking just more generally about our memories and our thoughts on the various media events, activities, everything that happened in 2013, which was the 50th anniversary year for Doctor Who. I think it's fair to say, David, that 2013 was probably the biggest year in the show's history. Would you agree?
Yeah. I mean, for you and I, especially, yes. Like, having not been alive for the classic series.
Yes.
So, from our memories, it was kind of crazy. I think.
It's just like there was just so much going on from what I remember. Like there were just so many different. I mean, obviously there's loads of like events and conventions, but not just like ones by fans, but like BBC creative conventions and things, which is quite a rarity outside of that year.
And I don't know how you've had it, but it was just like at school, Doctor Who is cool again. Weirdly,
there was a short period because I felt like up until through David Tennant era, Doctor Who was cool in school. I mean, maybe that was the age we were, but I felt like it was. And then gradually through Matt Smith's era, it became uncool until 2013 for a brief year where actually it was great again. And then
Yeah.
Capaldi happened, and it unfortunately has kind of gradually gone down since then.
Mm.
But we're not focusing on the negatives. We're focusing on the positive of 2013 for the time being. So I felt like we'd kind of walk our way through 2013 as a year,
Okay.
remembering the various things that happened, that were released, and just the different exciting things that we had for the year. Guys in the chat, please do post your memories, your thoughts on the different things we're talking about in the chat. We'd love to kind of just hear what you have to think about it as well as we go through. I felt it make the most sense given that Series 7B began in March of 2013. I think it was. Can you tell me the exact date, David? Because I can't. Was it like the 18th of March,
the
maybe?
20th of March or something
somewhere around there. I mean, I could Google it, but it's more fun to be a little bit out, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's this is live. It's a bit more real. What are your kind of overriding thoughts, Bo? Well, if you can remember at the time, but also since then, of Series 7B?
I remember watching the Bells Centre on like the first one and thinking it was really, really cool and really liking Clara. I remember. I think that's the one with the plane, isn't it? Where they go from the TARDIS to the plane.
Yes, it's an amazing shot. Yes. Yeah, it's great.
And that was so cool. And the motorbike coming out of the TARDIS. And it was just really, really action-packed. And I remember loving that one.
Yeah.
And generally, I remember being very excited for like the rest of that series. Like seeing either like pictures in Doctor Who magazine of it or like reading stuff about it. I'm trying to remember now what the stories were. So it was Bells of St. John, Rings of Akaten, Cold War.
Yep.
Hyde. I'm going to say, is it Hyde? Yeah, it's Hyde and Knock Knock that I keep getting mixed up. Hyde, yeah, I remember that. Journey to the Centre of the TARDIS.
That's the one.
Prince and Horror, Nightmare in Silver Day, and Name of the Doctor, wasn't it?
That's it, yeah. Well done. Very well remembered. Very impressive.
Thank you. So it was sort of a massive range of stories in a way.
Yeah.
But I just remember really enjoying it all. Like, it was just a really good time.
Yeah. I think for me, I don't have many recollections of watching Series 7B. I'm pretty sure, like, I was coming kind of back into Doctor Who after having kind of not been that into it in sort of 2012. I just remember, I think just the lack of episodes and just the age I was at the time meant I just had a little bit less interest in the show. But then I just remember gradually through Series 7B starting to get back into it again. And definitely I remember watching the finale and remember sitting with my family being completely bemused at what was happening when the War Doctor turned up at the end and just being like, I'm sorry, what? Yeah. What on earth is going on right now? Like, having not read up on it enough, kind of, because I wasn't that into it, I kind of wouldn't have seen on the forums if it leaked or whatever. So it was just genuine shock and surprise. And I was just like,
Same. I was so shocked. I remember being really shocked by that. I'm really, really excited when it said that he was Doctor, because I think by that point we knew that John Hurt was in the anniversary special.
I think so, yeah.
But not that what he was going to be playing. And to see that come up, it was like, what? I remember that. And even just all the different Doctors in Name of the Doctor.
Yes, yes. Oh, yeah.
Oh, I don't know. I don't think I personally knew that was going to happen. So, and I think I said, like, I really enjoyed that series. I think I did watching it. I think when you look back, they're not really episodes that I'd go to straight away, maybe. But yeah, like my memory of the time is really just loving it.
Yeah. I think that I'm more influenced by my memories more recently of that series, which is just not of it being bad, but it was just being maybe a little bit underwhelming. Where I think coming off the back of particularly series 5 and 6 that was so arc heavy, there was a real big build up. There were lots of event episodes within a series to all of series 7, but a lot of 7B, apart from the occasional Clara hints about who she really is, you kind of had a lot of relatively standalone stories without any that I felt were kind of genuine classics in there. Like they're not bad. Like Rings of Akaten is pretty good. Cold War, it's a solid Mark Gatiss script. Hyde is a pretty good sort of spooky, scary story. I like Journey to the Centre of the TARDIS because going inside a TARDIS, it's great. The Crimson Horror, I've never been a great fan of. I think it's okay, but also never been a great fan of. And then Nightmare in Silver's just kind of, given it's written by Neil Gaiman, it's a bit of a disappointment. Before Name of the Doctor is actually really good. But yeah, I just feel like the lack of a kind of thrilling episode in there that felt like a real kind of classic that everybody remembers about it kind of made that half of the series a little bit underwhelming, I think.
I get that, and I don't think it did itself any favours by splitting the series either.
Yeah.
I thought I understand why they did, but like to have a shorter run, and then as you say, there's no sort of outstanding classic sort of solid episodes. They're all really good.
Yeah,
they're not the most memorable. So
and I think there's obviously a lot of people I think criticised at the time the fact that we were in the show's biggest year ever, and yet we only got half a series. And I think that I can, as you say, it's understandable why it ended up happening, but it is also a reasonable criticism to say this was the biggest year in the show's history. You feel they should have put some money into getting a full series out of that. Of course, we did get Day of the Doctor as well, but it just felt, compared to previous years, or you think back to the RTD era, where you got 14 episodes of Doctor Who, 13 of Torchwood, and 13 of Sarah Jane, and all they could manage is 10 episodes of Doctor Who in the biggest year of the show's history. When you look at it like that, I guess it's sort of a little bit of a different kind of feeling towards it, I think.
I know what you mean. I think also, like, one of the biggest memories I have of the 50th anniversary, weirdly, because I was thinking about it this morning, is actually Doctor Who magazine, because like that year, like, Doctor Who magazine changed its size for whatever reason. It was like bigger, it was like fatter and smaller sort of thing. But I just remember collecting every single issue of it being brilliant, but also being a celebration. Oh, John Hurts fell down, of the whole show. And and I just remember like reading like things like David Tennant and Billy Piper were going to be in it, and they used a very promotional photo with David Tennant wasn't wearing a tie or something. Yes. But like, do you know, I remember things like that, and like just generally very excited about the show that way.
Yeah. And I think the big, like, the various teaser trailers and then the big 50th anniversary trailer that year as well were pretty exciting.
Yeah.
I think to watch when you got those first little glimpses of sort of the biggest episode the show's ever done, and then that incredible trailer where you've got all the Doctors, where they kind of do so much sort of VFX and stuff to try and really create a run through the show. It was just amazing.
Definitely. It's sort of like, and one of the best parts of the anniversary, and it's just a trailer.
I know. It's crazy, isn't it? That something so small can just actually just make the fans so excited about the show. And I think almost the same can be said about, as we mentioned, the Name of the Doctor, and just those few short scenes where you see all the old Doctors again and stuff. Like, as kind of fans of the whole show, and for a reasonable amount of time even at that point, like seeing an archive shot of Tom Baker or of John Pertwee or Patrick Troughton or whatever, just so exciting to see, I think, and seeing Clara interact with the First Doctor in a way, just things like that were just, I think, really exciting as fans. I feel some references in Series 7B felt very shoehorned in, but some like a lot of it worked, like the stuff in Name of the Doctor. But I just remember things like in Crimson Horror, I think the Doctor goes Braveheart Clara, like he used to do with Tegan and stuff like that. And it's like, and like I don't mind it, but it just felt I would have preferred if it was, if they kind of, those references were a little bit more integrated into some of the stories. But then it was a Mark Gatiss script, so I guess what can you expect? And I'm not convinced that having two Mark Gatiss scripts in the same half a series was their best decision ever. I don't wish to criticise Mark Gatiss, and we'll come on to praise another one of his works later on, but I would never put multiple Mark Gatiss scripts in the same series. I'm sorry.
Fair enough. Each to their own, Elliot.
I mean, it's true. It's true. So we had Series 7. We had the epic cliffhanger that that was in, I think it was in May, I believe. Middle of May was when the finale aired. And so at that point, we're 6 months away from the anniversary special, and because it says to be continued 23rd of November. And so I remember there was a lot of theories and thoughts on who the John Hurt Doctor was going to be, where he was going to fit in. Do you remember any of that at the time, the sort of discussion around that and what you thought might be the case? Or was it generally the assumption was he was the War Doctor type character?
I don't remember discussion as such, because this was before I was on any sort of social media or any sort of forum.
Okay.
Like, I'm never forum, and like, I wasn't on Twitter or anything. So I think I discussed it with a couple of my friends. And I think we sort of assumed that he was maybe the Doctor of the Time War, just because where that gap, like that's where a gap would be.
Yes.
I can't remember thinking it would be anything else. I don't know.
It definitely seemed like the most obvious.
Yeah. And
I think also from experience of Stephen Moffat as a writer, quite often the most obvious answer is the one he goes for. Just in various things he does throughout his tenure, it feels like, whereas we all have these massive theories about what things could be, and then actually like River, like all these wild theories, and actually he's the Doctor's wife, kind of makes sense. And
like being Amy and Rory's daughter isn't the most obvious.
No, I think that's probably the one kind of obvious change from that, but there's a lot of other moments like that where it kind of is what you're expecting from it. So I think and I feel like they did well. I know Night of the Doctor confirmed it, but I can't remember if before that they kind of confirmed that he was going to be in between 8 and 9. I can't really remember during that year whether that was announced or whether it just kind of came out through Night of the Doctor or not.
Do you know? Oh, I can't remember because I feel like it might have been in Night of the Doctor because I going to Night of the Doctor. Like, if we want to talk about that, I remember that being released, and I just got home from school or something. I'm pretty sure I just got home from school or seen it. I'd watched it, and it was the most exciting thing ever. Like, I did not expect it to be Paul McGann whatsoever. And I remember my dad got home from work and insisting that before we have dinner, I had to play it to him because he's a very big Doctor Who fan as well.
That's great.
And I was like, no, you've just got to see this. And I watched it so many times that night. It was just the most incredible thing. Like, every line of that, I think, is absolutely perfect.
Yeah, I mean, it was. I'm sure a lot of fans do say that was kind of their favourite moment of the 50th anniversary year, and I can totally get that. I think what helped was it was such a surprise.
Yeah.
Like, there was no talk about that happening at all. Somehow they kept that completely under wraps. And it was just, and they didn't even promote it or anything. They suddenly just dropped it on their YouTube channel out of nowhere. And we were all just going crazy because it's Paul McGann playing the Doctor again. Yeah. You're just like, you never expected this was ever going to happen again.
Not at all.
And suddenly he gets his whole minisode right before the 50th anniversary, linking into the special, seeing a regeneration scene for him as well, canonising Big Finish, all of those things that they threw into that. It was just, it definitely was a proper highlight of that, I think, of all the celebrations.
And I think I remember looking at the credits and thinking, oh my God, John Hurt is that Doctor or something, but I don't know why. I don't know if he's credited as the War Doctor or how he's credited.
I must confess, I can't remember how he's credited in that story. I mean, he's clearly not there for filming of that because they just use an archive image of him in a reflection to actually show him. So they didn't get him for that. But I still feel like it works. But I don't know if he was coined the War Doctor at that point or if it became sort of through Day that kind of made him into that. I think that's probably more what it was. Right, let's have a look at some people's comments, which had lots of comments in already. So Andrew says it's such a shame that Doctor Who merchandise is less of a phenomenon nowadays. It's very true.
It is. But it's I think it's sort of like on a rise again slowly.
Okay.
I don't know. Like, my answer to that would be like the action figures this year. As you know, Elliot, I was so excited by last week's announcement. That's incredible. No one ever expected to like have Romana figures, unit figures of the 70s.
It's true.
But I think the way people consume stuff is much more digital. So like 10 years ago, we wouldn't have had all these like escape rooms or virtual games or that. Now we can't go to an escape room at the moment. But there's a lot more sort of emphasis put on that. So
that's
true.
It's
all up and down. But let's be positive and hope it's on the rise.
Yes. A good comment from Ryan Pollard, who says, my memories of the 50th anniversary are very vivid. Got to attend the 2013 proms on both days, attended the 50th celebration at the London XL, and saw Day of the Doctor on the big screen. Yes. Actually, that's one thing I kind of forgotten about, but yes, Doctor Who proms 2013 is probably the one thing that I wish I could have gotten to. Like, I just hope that one day in the future there is another Doctor Who prom, and I will instantly buy tickets for that. No chance I'm missing out on that. Like, I'm there straight away because I just want to see Doctor Who music perform live. I haven't been able to do that, and it's like.
Did you not go to the Symphonic Spectacular?
No, I didn't at the time. I don't know quite why. I guess it. I didn't really have any family members who were interested enough in it to go.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like I'd have to go on my own. I wasn't really confident enough to do it then.
Well, if there's a Doctor Who concert or prom announced earlier, we'll go.
There we go. Sorted. It's all sorted. I really wish I knew what Doctor Who was in 2013. It certainly was a good time to be a Doctor Who fan, and it is. I'm sure for people who've become a fan since and seen everything that happened that year, there is definitely some level of disappointment around that. And yeah, Series 7B was not as bad as I remember it being, but suffered from a rushed, undercooked intro to Clara and half the stories being incredibly disappointing. Quite scathing criticism there. I don't think the Clara intro's that bad, personally. Like, I've always quite liked Bells of St. John and Clara and that version of Clara's introduction.
Yeah, I like how Clara, because Clara is introduced 3 times. I know it's different characters.
Yeah.
But it is really the same sort of like Asylum of the Daleks, Snowman. So I like that because that's new and that's different. I don't remember seeing that in anything else before, and anything that's new and different. I'm like, that's good. And so I don't know, that I really like that one. But I Exist says, considering the scale of the Time War, is it really reasonable that there was only one incarnation of the Doctor throughout it?
Well, there's another rabbit hole we can go down.
That is a rabbit hole, isn't it? Because I would sort of say yes and no. because the War Doctor is clearly sort of like, we see him at the start of his life and the end of his life, so he's in the Time War for the whole thing.
Yeah.
But you never know. Like, David Tennant might go back and sort of do different things in the Time War after he's regenerated. I don't know if this is just a me sort of thing, but in the Five Doctors, it feels like all the Doctors are in their timeline after they've regenerated. So in my head, they
that's a good point.
Yeah, they sort of exist after they've regenerated. It's like a sort of like, oh, the rules don't apply to me, so I'm just going to go over there and just help this guy out for a bit. I don't know. It's all in your head. It's whatever you want it to be.
That's really true. Like, I feel like in New Who, they've made an effort to try and write in where they are in their timeline in each multi-Doctor story, just to try and make it clear. Whereas in Classic Who, they kind of just didn't care and just rolled with it and left fans to kind of try and attempt to figure out where maybe they've been put out a timeline or just it doesn't work at all.
And just like, even though like in Day of the Doctor, David Tennant to me is sort of like after he's regenerated again, because like there's no sort of indication as to where he is. I don't know, that might just be a me thing, but I just feel like the Doctors exist sort of.
Yeah, I prefer that. And I mean, could it be the case? I mean, Doctor, you can always do that in the future, that you were to have a future Doctor go back into the Time War somehow. And incorporate that into a storyline. Like, of course, they say, oh, it's time locked, you can't get in. But we know Doctor Who, they can easily write over stuff like that. It's not an issue. I don't know if it would necessarily be a good thing or whether there's any reason to tread that ground again. But it could be an interesting thing to explore in the future, I guess.
I think to me, it's one of those things that will always stay in my head.
Yeah,
or should be in like books or something, like the novelization of the Day of the Doctor.
Yeah,
like when all the Doctors are there, instead of them all just like zooming around Gallifrey and making the web, they move as they move the planet. The 12th Doctor is sort of like in the command center on Gallifrey, and he's directing each of them to sort of like, because as they move the planet, there's going to be tsunamis or earthquakes, and each Doctor goes to a different place to save everyone.
Okay. Yep.
Thing, and so they get much more of an active role, and it's like, how can they all be there, because it's time, but they can be there.
Yes.
So it's that sort of like, do you know what I mean?
Yes,
I don't necessarily see TV. Well, that personally would have been really cool on TV, but like, I like that it's in a book instead.
No, that's so true. Right, what else have we got here? There was a production guy who accidentally let it leak in an interview, apparently, about the about Night of the Doctor.
Oh, really?
Don't know quite why.
I think I remember it was like released a week early or something, because it was going to be on the 22nd of November.
It came out on the 14th. I checked it. Yeah. 14th. Yeah.
Which is Paul McGann's birthday as well.
Oh, is it?
I don't know. I think so. I think it was released on his birthday.
Though I remember there was the hilarious thing with the Series 7 Blu-ray that got released in America 2 weeks before the finale aired somehow, because they're just idiots over there, I guess, for whoever's producing it, just sent it out too early, and so there were loads of fans on the internet who've seen Name of the Doctor already, and it was just leak central. It was a bit of a mess, let's be honest.
Luckily, I didn't have it spoiled, but I do remember like the box sets having
apparently
leaked.
John Hurt was credited as the War Doctor in Name of the Doctor. I did not know that. That's very intriguing. So that means surely there should never have been any speculation then, because unless people still speculated with War Doctor, that doesn't necessarily mean Time War, but that kind of seems obvious. So,
but there would have been speculation between Name of the Doctor and Night of the Doctor, which is like a fair few months.
I mean, it was a 6-month period essentially, so that does kind of make sense. Well, for me, having an adventure in space and time, the Five-ish Doctors reboot, the Night of the Doctor and Day of the Doctor together was the perfect 50th celebration. I think that's true. Yeah, that's absolutely the case.
Yeah. Basically.
Interesting, the BBC iPlayer page for Name of the Doctor does just credit John Hurt as the Doctor, not the War Doctor.
But then again, it was that Day of the Doctor, did you say?
No, Name of the Doctor. He's credited as just the Doctor.
That's
I can probably just boot up the episode and just check the credits, let's be honest.
Yeah.
And that will solve the problems. Got to the Symphonic Spectacular in 2015. It was awesome hearing music from Capaldi's first series in a huge stadium. I mean, it's basically all I want.
Making it jealous at this point.
Literally, like, I remember watching recordings of it on YouTube and just being like, oh my days, I wish I was there. Because it was like before the Series 8 soundtrack was released as well, so it's like the first time you could hear Capaldi era music, which is just really cool. Right, I've had a look at the credits and it does just say The Doctor John Hurt, so there we go.
Oh, cleared up. Right. We're not going to do any more of this live stream.
Well, he mentions that he married Elizabeth I in The End of Time, so that's
Yeah, but
It has to be before End of Time, then, doesn't it?
maybe. Yeah, maybe. Fair enough. I stand disagreeing. But in my head, it because that's the thing. You don't see them do any vows, do you?
That's true. No, you just kind of see it
No,
happen.
there's no indication. Well, you see them kiss and there's vows, but there's no actual sort of it's not definitely a wedding. I would point that out.
Okay.
No one knows what agreement they made. But which is the brilliance of it. It's Doctor Who.
The Doctors in multi-Doctor stories always come from basically right before their last stories. To be fair, that sometimes is certainly it's implied that Day of the Doctor is meant to be between Waters of Mars and End of Time, or at least maybe before Waters of Mars, but definitely not any earlier than that. I mean, other ones, who really knows? But then you look at Twice Upon a Time, David Bradley. His first Doctors. That's from just before the 10th planet. So,
but I just going back to the 5 Doctors. Like the 3rd Doctor turns up, and it's like, I'm sure there's a line to Sarah Jane about so, Doctor, I haven't seen you for ages, and he's like, yes, I haven't seen you for quite a while too, or he says something along the line. Okay. I don't know. Yes. But it feels to me like that's after he's regenerated.
Well, it's because it's got to be in his last season because that's the only time he's met Sarah. But yeah, if he says something along those lines, then that doesn't make any sense because.
Or it feels weird for the 2nd Doctor just halfway through the War Games leaves Zoe and Jamie and goes to the Brigadier's retirement party.
Okay, yeah. How do we know it's halfway through the War Games? Could be before the War Games.
Well, but also he's got grey hair, hasn't he? By the time of the 5 Doctors, he's got proper grey hair.
Maybe this is after he doesn't regenerate.
Maybe
that's what happens. This is the storyline that fits into once his face disappears into the darkness. Then the 5 Doctors happens. There you go. We fixed this.
There we go. But to me, it's always sort of like that. I think I'd always think about it as if they're wondering about after they've regenerated. But yeah.
As far as I know, 10 knew about Elizabeth and the Shakespeare Code, so I think 10 in Day of the Doctor is pre-Smith and Jones. Well, that's just complicated things more.
He's confused about why she's throwing the arrow. But I mean, it's all open to interpretation. This thing.
I think that's.
But to me, to me, when the arrow hits the TARDIS, he's like, I don't know what that's about. Or Martha's like, what did you do? And he's like, I don't know yet. Mm-hmm. And I don't know. That's always been my interpretation of it.
Fair enough. But, I Exist has said it's in chapter 9 of the novelization that it's between Waters, Mars, and the End of Time. Haven't you got the novelization?
I do have the novelization.
Clearly, you got to read it.
You haven't read it, have you?
I haven't read it.
No, so I have to let you into a secret, Elliot. Chapter 9 of the novelization is written by the Silence.
Right.
Or it's told by the Silence. So, unfortunately, no matter how many times you read it, you can't quite remember what's said in it.
Right, I see. Okay,
so,
then.
Pick up that book and read chapter 9, is what I'd say to you.
Cool. Right, well, I think we've pretty much caught up to the various comments. So why don't we've kind of mentioned Night of the Doctor. I feel the last thing before we tackle Day has got to be Adventure in Space and Time. Because that's probably one of my personal highlights of the 5th anniversary. I do still vividly remember watching that I think it was the Thursday evening that it aired. I remember watching it in my room and it was an absolute joy. The hour and a half, I was just absolutely in awe of it. The whole way through, it was just such a wonderful, heartwarming, emotive, so much love and effort put into creating this story about the original creation of Doctor Who. I really did. I just love it to this day. I think it's such a great piece of drama.
I completely agree. I remember being really excited about it as well. And again, I remember looking at filming pictures. I remember looking at a picture. It was a really blurry picture of a pub. And I think it's just where not Barbara, what am I saying? Verity Lambert is when the moon landings or something. She's in a sort of party pub sort of atmosphere. Yes. I think it was in that, but I remember seeing that sort of thing. And so I remember watching on the night. And then, it was just sort of really eerie and atmospheric because it was sort of a cold winter's night. And it was just such a lovely story. Yes. And it doesn't even, I don't think you have to be a Doctor Who fan to appreciate how lovely that is, how good, as you say, it's just a really good piece of drama.
Yes, exactly. I think there's no doubt it's the best thing that Mark Gatiss has written, and I will always give him credit for that at the very least, even if I don't love his episodes on the whole that much. that's the one thing where I'm always going to go, yeah, he did a great job there. Like he took, I think he wanted to do that for the 40th anniversary, so it's kind of been like the idea in his head for 10 years. So he was always going to put a lot of effort into making that right. And I know some people criticize it because it's not 100% historically accurate, but I don't think that matters. I think it's more about being a dramatic retelling, and the fundamentals of it are all still the same and true and factual. Sure, there's a few little things in there, but I don't think that's an issue. And I think overall it just creates such a wonderful piece of drama that's a real love letter to the show of this wonderful, exciting start to this amazing show, and how it nearly didn't happen, how it almost nearly all got cancelled, and then actually was a massive success. And just the journey we go on with William Hartnell as well, I think in that and him just realizing he can't do it anymore, and their sort of health issues are taking over.
That scene in his living room when he's like at the fireplace, it's just it
really is. You can really see, and you can just believe that that's what William would have been feeling like back in real life. Like he loved that part so much. It meant everything to him to be the Doctor back at the very beginning, and so to have to realize he has to give that up, I'm sure was a real horrible experience. But yeah,
completely. And I think, sorry, I was just like, I think at the time, because I think we knew David Bradley was going to play William Hart. I was like, that's a really weird choice because I'd only really seen him in Harry Potter, and like I think he's in Dinosaurs on the Spaceship, but he's still sort of like the very sort of like, I don't know how to describe his very dishevelled appearance. You know what I mean?
Yes.
It's like, well, how can he play William Hart? I mean, I was 15 at the time, so you don't really think about like actors doing this thing, but he's just extraordinary in it, and he gets the part so well.
Yes.
Just absolutely brilliant.
I think he's a much better William Hartnell than he is a First Doctor. Personally, I think it's not a bad performance as the First Doctor, but I think playing William Hartnell as a person, I think he really does just nail that character and the sort of emotions that character would have been going through, that person would have been going through at that time. I really think he just fits into that so well.
It's a far more emotive performance. I definitely agree. I like his First Doctor because it's like, it's not attempting to be William Hartnell's First Doctor. It's sort of caricature. It's just, it's very light and fun. Intimate when we see him for some time. But and I think it just looks beautiful. Yes. Like, is it the what was the monster in the Web Planet that looked like butterflies? Is it the Mentra?
And the Monoptera, the Zarbi are the like bees, and then the Monoptera are the other ones.
The Monoptera. I remember seeing that, and it was just like, wow, there's sort of like the painstaking art that went into all of it. Yeah. To me, it's incredible.
Yes. And of course, Sacha Dhawan's first performance in the Whoniverse as well. Who does a brilliant job as Boris Hussein in that story. I think he's such a really another just a warm and lovely performance of the struggles and frustration, but also the real satisfaction of being able to bring the show together at the very beginning.
Him and Jessica Raine, who I remember being really big at that time. Like she was, I think she just done Call the Midwife, and then she was in Doctor Who, and like the proper Doctor Who, and then this. And like them two together were brilliant. And of course, it was also, I believe, the first Doctor Who thing that Matt Strevens was involved in.
Was it?
I think I'm pretty sure I'm right in saying that he produced An Adventure in Space and Time.
I'm gonna have to check it. You know,
check it.
Make sure of these facts. And you can discuss a little bit more of. Yes, it looks like he earlier produced An Adventure in Space and Time, according to TARDIS Wiki. Adventure in Space and Time, and then Series 11 and 12 is his producing credits. So yes, Adventure was... In the comments,
Profi will put a picture. So I'm assuming my explanation of why the Doctors are where they are in their anniversary specials. I don't care if it makes no sense. It's just nice above my head.
It's fine.
But yeah. Someone says I still need to watch An Adventure in Space and Time. Sometime you really do, because it is just fantastic.
It's amazing. Just set aside an hour and a half. I know it's quite long. I unfortunately it's not on iPlayer, but I'm sure you can find it online somewhere. Like it really isn't difficult to find.
I believe it's on Brit as well.
But you do have to. Well, you can get a 30-day free trial or pay $5.99 for that, depending on how you feel about it. But yeah. Or you can like buy it off Amazon Prime for like £1 or something like that, I'm sure. So I would highly recommend going and checking it out, because it was one of my highlights of the 50th anniversary year as a whole. And so I think now is time to talk about the big moment, the day of the Doctor.
The moment
That wasn't even intentional. I nailed it there, didn't I? Let's see if I can just find my picture of Day of the Doctor though first.
Can I do another quote? What is the moment? I don't understand. Or is it no? It's the other way around. I don't understand. What is the moment? Or is the moment now gone, Elliot?
Oh, the moment has gone. I'm sorry. Oh my days. So, Day of the Doctor, the 23rd of November 2013. There'd been the viral marketing campaign #SaveTheDay. I remember that really worked on social media. I remember it really got people engaged, and there was a lot of hype around this episode. I like Doctor Who getting on BBC News before it even airs and stuff. Like there are interviews with all the cast in the weekend leading up to it and stuff that are all across the news. Tom Baker accidentally leaking that he was in the programme. Well, maybe not him, but somebody accidentally said he was in the programme.
I think it was him. I can't remember. It was like a Huffington Post article, and he did an interview saying he was in it, or someone this interview that annoyed me so much.
It definitely leaked, unfortunately, beforehand.
Yeah,
I think I was aware of it going into it that he was going to be in it, but it still didn't make it any less exciting when he appeared.
No, it didn't. But it was one of those things where I was like, "Damn, I wish I never saw that." Okay, I don't see that. I need to forget that that's happened. Do you know what I mean?
Yes, exactly. So yeah, I mean, the episode is the biggest, epic, most exciting and wonderful Doctor Who episode. It's just there's so much thrown into it, but I feel like it actually all comes together, because it could have been a complete messy disaster trying to get all these doctors and so many different plot points covered across into one story, and interweave the whole Zygon Earth plot line in with the Time War Doctor plot line, and actually get them together, and it just really works, I think. I mean, what do you have memories of watching it when it aired?
I do. I went to the cinema to watch it. I was really lucky.
I'm jealous.
Because I remember them announcing it, and they were like, "Oh my god, we need to go to the cinema to watch it." Yeah. And then when they released the tickets, I'm pretty sure I got them on the day, sort of like they released the tickets, and I went with my dad and my friend and his dad, and I was just so excited. I just remember being really excited all day for it. I remember traveling to the cinema, and I think we were going to be late, or like being worried. That would be a me thing, to be worried that we'd be like, we weren't. It was fine. And everyone applauded at the end. I remember that.
That's brilliant.
And there was a big when Tom Baker showed up. That was really big, and it was just really fun. It was just really exciting.
Were people generally kind of quiet during the episode, like they were just engrossed in the episode rather than any sort of like cheering or clapping or anything? It was very much just sort of watching the episode, so engrossed in it.
I think so. Okay. I mean, it was 7 years ago.
Yeah, of course, it's a while ago.
Sort of like, I'm not sure, but I was definitely engrossed in it. And loved it. Yeah. And I think I was a bit worried at the time. I think I watched it and loved it, but was very worried that maybe it wouldn't be like accessible to a lot of viewers, like in the casual viewer, because it's all about the Time War and this continuity and that sort of thing. Yeah. But I think that worry pretty quickly went away when you sort of saw the reaction to it and like the reviews and the ratings of it.
Yeah.
I don't.
I mean, I think it got something around 13 or 14 million people watching it in the end, which is a crazy figure for Doctor Who, and that very, very seldom happens. I can probably tell you how many people watched it if I can find it. 13.1 million.
Cool.
Or 12.8, sorry, 12.8.
No, so what did you say, sorry?
Sorry, 12.8 million people watched it.
12.8. Almost 13 million.
Almost 13.
I must have seen it in 3D, but I don't really remember anything being properly 3D, which is hilarious.
I mean, I've never seen it in 3D. I was reading an interview or something, maybe on TARDIS Wiki, where Nick Curran said that he was bearing in mind the fact it was in 3D when they were making it, and had watched loads of. I think Stephen made a joke that he'd watched every single 3D movie ever made to try and be able to make it in a way where 3D would work. But I mean, I haven't seen it in 3D, but doesn't jump out that there's anything really worth watching in 3D. And ultimately, I think 3D as a concept kind of died out already anyway. So.
It was pretty quick and like a craze, and then sort of gone.
Yeah.
What are your memories of watching it then?
I definitely I only vaguely remember watching it. I definitely watched it when it aired in my house with my family. I don't massively remember kind of sitting and watch and sort of actually the experience of watching it, but I certainly remember afterwards the very positive and excited reaction from myself. I loved it, and from fans generally. It just felt like such something that just made you really proud to be a Doctor Who fan, almost, if that doesn't sound too cheesy. Just where you kind of it reminded you of why this show is so wonderful and why we all love it and are invested in it so much, because it can do things at episodes like this that are just such a wonderful, exciting experience that just gave us everything that we love about the show in a 75-minute episode. And so, yeah, I just remember just a real kind of warm feeling coming out of it, I think, and just a feeling of, I love this show. I'm always going to be a fan of the show. It's just the greatest thing ever, more than anything else, I think. So, yeah.
It does so much, like, the start is really wacky, but like, I mean, it's beautiful that you have the Coal Hill at the start, and I love that. I absolutely adore that it starts with the sort of 60s title and then they go to Coal Hill. Then you have the TARDIS over London. So like, it's just, as you say, it just makes you feel so good and so warm and so proud of the show.
Yes.
Like, it's iconic for the country, sort of like in our TV history.
Yeah, and it was cleverly nostalgic in places as well. For example, in the scene where the TARDIS is hanging over London, they use the music from the Slitheen episode in Series 1. Which is just one of those tiny little things where that's a sort of a piece of music that just you'll just recognize it when you hear it, and it's just subtly kind of gives you a nostalgic feeling, I think. Same with like the Dalek themes reused a lot when they have the Time War sequences and stuff like that. Just, I think sometimes the music can just help you feel nostalgic and more positive towards something because you remember it from the good old days, as it were. You connect that music to kind of your childhood and those older episodes, and so bringing that into the current show, the same like having, as you say, the 60s titles as well, just already gets you kind of excited and thinking, wow, this really is a celebration of the whole show in an episode and not just another episode that happens to be on the 50th anniversary of it, which I think was really important.
Definitely.
Obviously, I guess one of the kind of minor criticisms people will always have had was the lack of any classic Doctors having a significant role in this story. Do you think that's a problem? Do you think they should have tried to incorporate some in there? Or do you think, given things like the Five-ish Doctors reboot, there wasn't any necessity for that?
I personally don't think it was a problem because there was so much celebration of different Doctor Who there, and it wasn't like that episode was ignoring classic Who, because it definitely wasn't. Like, there was the return of the Zygons, you had all the companions sort of on the boards. Like, the Doctors do make an appearance, which is great, and then Tom Baker's there to sort of represent them. I think it can be very messy when you try, like, at this point there's 11 Doctors. That's a lot to give like all these different roles to. Like, you know what I mean? I think it's really difficult actually to make a story that you could do with that many characters, and they just won't look the same. And I don't know a reason as to why Colin Baker, like, could take Colin Baker just because like he looks, I think, the most different to how he would have looked in the 80s.
Yeah, that's true.
And like, do you really want him? And not to be disrespectful, Colin Baker, because I'm sure he didn't want to look as that sort of thing. Because in his Big Finish, like when he does Big Finish, he's still the same sort of like physique and all his hair and that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, and these girl Doctors, like they did the Five Doctor. If they were in the 50th anniversary properly, we wouldn't have had the Five-ish Doctors reboot, which I think is brilliant and I love so much. So it's sort of like, well, why not? If they didn't want to celebrate the classic Doctors, the BBC wouldn't have given Peter Jason the money to do it as well, because that, I think that has to be like, it was his idea to do it, but then they said to him, yes, here's the crew and some money. I think that's quite big. And those Doctors as well, like the Big Finish anniversary story, Light at the End, is a real celebration of those Doctors as well. So I don't think it was needed because it was all around sort of thing, and it is like modern Who is different and the same. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, to a casual audience, you want to see Matt Smith and David Tennant.
Yeah, exactly.
That's sort of enough, I think.
Yeah, it wouldn't have made any sense for them to suddenly bring in Tom Baker and Peter Davison as the two main Doctors and just have Matt Smith as a sideline. Like, that would have made no sense given where the show is at currently, I think. And so, as you say, using kind of other media and other things that were created around that time to kind of showcase the classic Doctors along with an involvement and inclusion in the 50th anniversary special, I think was enough for it to work. And as you say, we wouldn't have got 5-ish Doctors, which is just wonderful.
Yeah.
And I can never watch that enough. It's just great fun.
Yeah, and I think also, like, because you could sort of argue, well, why not do it with all the Doctors? Because the 5 Doctors did that. But by that point, Doctor Who had only been going for 20 years, which is still a massive achievement and a long time. But this is 30 years more with 6 more Doctors and actors to give lines and characters. So it's like, do you know what I mean? That's an even bigger thing to try and do. And I think if they had tried to do it, I don't think it would have worked, and that would be more disappointing.
Yeah, clearly they were never. You cannot create the 11 Doctors. I mean, maybe they wouldn't have had 1 and 2 or 3 because they'd all passed away, but you couldn't have had 7 or 8 Doctors in one story. That fundamentally doesn't work. And also, then if you just selected certain ones from the classic series, then people would go, well, why didn't you choose that one? Why have you chosen him over him? Is he more important? All this, that, and the other. And so, I think it was the safest bet to just go down that route, really, with the special. Right, let's have a look at some more comments, because we've got lots of comments. So when you saw it in cinemas, I've actually been reminded by somebody's comment here, was they had the special intros. Do you remember watching the cinema intros at all?
I do. I do.
I mean, I think I've seen them since at some point, like online. So I don't think I ever released them, but like the one with Strax and things like that, I think wasn't there.
There's one with Strax, which I can't remember what I thought of that. I don't think I rate that one. But there's another one with the 11th Doctor.
Yes, he's making fun of 3D or something.
Yeah, he talks about that 4D, and it's like the 100th anniversary, which I loved.
Yes.
And then it's sort of like him and then David Tennant, and then they turn and it's the War Doctor, and it's all mysterious. I loved that. I thought that was great.
So did they show both of those in succession before the start of the episode screening then?
I think so.
Okay.
But don't quote me.
No, fair enough.
It would.
Yeah. I was at Fist Under Federation. I went to cinema to watch The Day of the Doctor. Some crew members told me right before I saw that I would be pleasantly surprised. That's quite cool. I was a casual viewer back then who had missed the whole IT era, but I remember really, really loving it. I always wish I'd seen it in the cinema, though. Maybe the 60th. It was such a missed opportunity not to bring back Ian. Do you think Ian Chesterton should have had a cameo, or William Russell should have had a cameo in the story? I think the original plans was he was going to, just he wasn't well enough to do it.
Oh.
Apparently he was going to... Do you remember the scene at the start of the episode where Clara's in the classroom and that guy comes through and says, oh, there's a call from your doctor? They were going to rewrite that in some way, but that was planning, I think, originally to be Ian playing that character as someone at the school or something, which I think would have been really good, but apparently he wasn't well enough at the time to be able to do it, which is a bit of a shame. But of course he did get a cameo in Adventure in Space and Time.
Yes, he does. And also, the big, like, sort of 50th anniversary comic strip of Doctor Who magazine was Ian and Barbara meeting the 11th Doctor.
Oh, that's brilliant. Which
was fantastic. So I didn't miss it personally on TV because I loved that. And it's sort of like, do you know what I mean? You take stories as they go. But that would have been lovely to have had that.
Still wish they'd use Paul McGann as the War Doctor or Chris Eccleston, or put the 7th as the War Doctor for the movie. Clearly, as fans, we all would have loved to see Chris Eccleston do it. I don't think there's any denying that, as brilliant as John Hurt was, and I loved him, and I always think he's going to be a great Doctor, but we all would have taken Chris Eccleston over John Hurt. And it's just a shame that was never able to happen at the time. It
is a shame, but looking back in hindsight, I wouldn't take Chris Eccleston over John Hurt because of the fantastic stuff that we've had with John Hurt. I think it's an amazing performance from him.
Yeah.
He had his own audio series. There's one of my favourite Doctor Who books is a book featuring the War Doctor.
Okay.
I think it's just such an interesting incarnation, and it goes in places that you can't really go with other incarnations of the Doctor. So yeah, it was sad they wasn't there, but look at what we got. I thought it was incredible.
Yeah. I don't regret the way things panned out. John Hurt really adds so much to the lore there, as you say. Love the idea of the War Doctor. I think if McGann or Eccleston's Doctor had been used, they would have been very defined as the War Doctor by new viewers. That is true.
Yeah.
Then Eccleston would have become the War Doctor, not just the 9th Doctor, for example, which is quite interesting, actually. Nice thoughts, which is some of the most packed and meaningful dialogue of all Doctor Who, as you mentioned. If you're going to come up for less than 7 minutes, those are some of the best.
It does.
Yeah.
And it also features... Sorry, it also features the first appearance of Ahila, doesn't it? Is it Ahila?
Yes.
Yeah, I love her so much.
Yeah.
She's sort of like... And to just put her in a 7-minute episode, it's not like they were like, oh, who can we get? Let's just cast these, make up these characters for these 7 minutes, because it's all about the Eighth Doctor's regeneration. They really create characters for it.
Go back to the planet Khan from Brain and Morbius. And all that. It's great. Ian was also going to return in Mordred Undead, apparently, but he was unavailable, so they brought the Brigadier back instead. I do remember reading that, actually. Yeah, they were originally... It would have made more sense to have Ian than the Brigadier, given his role, but they rewrote it for that. What do you think about they wanted to use the posters for the Dalek films? I mean, I wouldn't have had any problem if they chucked the posters of the Dalek films in there, because why not? Let's try and loosely canonise Peter Cushing Doctor, but then actually, are Daleks then not... That, I mean, yeah, that just gets confusing.
That I found that dangerous, like the idea that they could have been in them. I was like, oh, because I don't. That's the sort of thing that I don't know if anyone knows the answer to, whether he's like canon or not. And like, I think the vaguer the better. But again, it's something that's done in the novelization of the story. So instead of the posters, the two doctors actually find the videos of the Peter Cushing movies and they watch them as
Seriously?
As Kate and the Zygons sorting out the peace treaty, the doctors watch Peter Cushing.
Oh, I did not know this. Wow.
Yeah, and Kate mentions in dialogue, because Clara, I think it's Clara who first sees it when it's just Kate and Clara in the back archive. Is like, what? There was a movie made. And then Kate, she says, like, didn't the doctor mind? And she was like, he lent Peter Cushing his waistcoat or something. And then they were like, we didn't realise until Peter Cushing started turning up in movies that were made long after his death. They were such good friends, which I think is really funny.
Wow.
And I just sort of love. And then there's a bit where it's really hammered in. And then later on, the doctors phone Peter Cushing and ask for the fare and pitch a third movie to him.
Okay.
Which I was just like, so that's the sort of reason that I'm like, maybe it should be left to other media to do.
Yeah. I think the TV show doesn't need to try and canonise that or give a definitive answer on that, because it's a messy topic, shall we say?
Yeah.
I think it's probably worth, given there's a few different comments about it, worth talking about the 60th anniversary. What would you like to see, and what do you think will actually happen?
I was thinking about this last night because, like, in this lockdown, I'd hate to bring things back to this because I don't really like talking about it because it's just like, we can't do anything. But I don't see how they're going to film. I don't think they'll make the decision to film Doctor Who under social distancing, because generally, from what I can tell, period dramas haven't started filming, and period dramas won't film.
Yeah.
And I think the same should be said of science fiction, because there's no proper reason as to why those characters should be social distancing.
Yeah.
Whereas things like Soaps or Line of Duty or that sort of thing, they're very much set this year or next year. Do you know what I mean? So, and then I was thinking, well, if they don't film it this year, does that mean we won't get a series till the 60th anniversary?
That's true.
And then do they just reboot it? Do they try a just brand new reboot with a completely new Doctor?
But when you say reboot, do you just mean new regeneration, or do you mean new show?
Just sort of 2005 again.
Okay.
Like, not a new show, but also maybe Joe did, like, they wouldn't. I mean, this was just where my head was going. I'm not saying this is what I want, but I was like, what if it could be possible? I don't think they will. But what if, like, Joe's last episode was Christmas, and then they just decide to completely revamp the whole thing and relaunch?
That's true. And then kind of just have some sort of time gap, as it were, from the Doctor's point of view, and then just have a new Doctor, not a regeneration scene. Maybe just start with a new Doctor, and then say, in the future, other media will fill in this gap. But we want to try and relaunch the show to an extent in 23.
Yeah.
Because
I don't actually. The more I say it, I don't like the idea of a new Doctor, because I think Jodie should have a third. I'd love to see that, but it'd be like a completely different cast around her. Mm-hmm. So, the show would just completely feel new and sort of changed.
Yeah.
And we sort of like, sort of like Series 10 is, in a way that, like they tried to make it sort of like this catching on point. And so I think that now might play a part in the 60th anniversary, maybe, because who knows how long we're going to have to film under social distancing.
Yeah, I mean, that's really the unknown, because, as we know, the original plan was to start filming in September this year, to most likely have a series airing in autumn of 2021, so next year. In reality, that's unlikely to happen, and you'd probably say at the earliest, start of next year is when they'll actually start filming the series, if not later. So that pushes the series until at least early 2022 for an airing. because it's going to take a year from start filming to production or to air date.
And it'll take longer if it's socially
true.
resistant.
Yeah.
It's going to take much longer.
Yeah, and you sense they probably have to rewrite a lot of scripts, maybe even do some different ideas, because there would just be some stuff you can't do if you can't have your characters within a couple of meters of each other most of the time, or just in the way that they do the production. It will probably have to be changed a lot, and as you say, I'm sure it'll be a slower process. So it may take 15 to 18 months to film the same amount of episodes rather than sort of 12-ish months that it's been the last couple of times. So yeah, it's a really interesting thought. I mean, I think we can pretty confidently say there's going to be a maximum of one series before the 2023.
Maybe.
There's definitely not going to be more than one series between now and the 60th anniversary. There may be if they get on with it, there may be a series during the anniversary year. But I'm more inclined to say that between now and 2023, there will be the third full series for Jodie, whether that doesn't air until late 2022, maybe, or something like that. And then we'll just get maybe a series of specials in 23 leading up to some sort of 60th anniversary special, and then maybe Jodie regenerating off the back of that in a similar vein to Matt in 2013.
Yeah.
I would say that's the most plausible sort of thing that could happen at the moment.
I can see that. I don't think the 60th anniversary will feel as big as the 50th.
No, I agree. Yeah.
I can't see that happening because it's sort of not.
Yeah.
I feel like it's sort of like when you're 50 years old. I mean, who knows? Because we're nowhere near 50, thank God, Elliot. But like, it feels like you have a massive party, and you make a lot of noise. But then 60th, it's sort of like you're not going to make such a lot of noise, but it's more about the quality.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So it's not about like, oh my God, this, and this, and this, but really focusing on how can we celebrate using what we've got.
Yeah.
So I don't think like there'll be a cinema release. I don't think there's a big.
I agree.
And it's just a movie, unless there's no series and there is a movie. Maybe they'll do that. Yeah. But otherwise, it'll be very much like that. So I hope we see more of Joe Martin. So I really hope that could be a really, really nice way of doing the 60th anniversary. And what I would personally love, which I think a lot of people would love, is to have all the modern Doctors together.
Yes.
And so,
yes.
Like, I mean, Chris probably wouldn't come back, but to have David, Matt, Peter, and Jodie, and Joe Martin. Sorry, because I love Joe Martin.
The new 5 Doctors.
Yeah, and I think that's much more manageable than trying to do the 13 plus Doctors.
Yeah.
But yeah, that could be really, really cool. So that's what I would like to see, I think.
Yeah. I mean, I part of me wants, if they can't do a series and are sort of nailed down to a series of specials, could they maybe do a story spread over that year with multiple Doctors, sort of into some big 4 or 5 part epic with a sort of installment every couple of months through 2023, concluding with the 6th anniversary sort of day, sort of for the final part of it, where maybe each Doctor, they're all in each one, but sort of one Doctor could have more of a focus in each story, before them all coming together in the final part against some sort of threat, possibly. But I'm inclined to say, sort of, as you say, 60 is not as big as 50, there's no denying that. And I kind of feel like there's more likely to be something significant sort of on the day, but that it won't be the big event year that 2013 was. Like, there's not going to be stuff running through the whole year with loads of extra media and stuff. There'll be little bits and bobs here and there, but I just can't see that same level because there just isn't. Quite frankly, there's probably not an interest that there was in 2013, and there's just not the same reason to, given it's a lesser anniversary. Yeah,
I'd agree.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like we've been quite negative in the last 5 minutes, but we're just being realistic about the show's prospects going forwards, I think, and we can't sort of kid ourselves into thinking that we're going to get something that we're not, and that the show's in a place that it isn't, because
it's also I would love, like, I'm not going to be disappointed when it's the 60th anniversary and there's not a whole year of celebrations and it's just like a special and a series. I will still love that, and I'm still excited for that. Do you know what I mean? And New Dog Who I get excited for. So
yeah. Right. What other comments have we got apart from Legendary 3D Gamer saying hi a lot? Was watching Series 10 recently and actually introduces all the necessary background info really well for new viewers. As you mentioned, Series 10 there is, in many ways, a very good reboot of the show, just it was at completely the wrong time for the show.
And it's,
Yeah. I mean, I feel like we've been quite negative in the last 5 minutes, but we can't kid ourselves into thinking that we're going to get something that we're not, and there's just not the same reason to, given it's a lesser anniversary.
Maybe. You know my opinions on Series 10. I
Yes,
feel like I'm
indeed.
so unfair on Series 10 because I look back and watch some of this and they are great. And
Yes.
I don't know why I didn't like it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I agree. I think Series 10 actually does re-establish the show really well.
Right. On that note, any idea why Chibnall hasn't managed as many episodes a year as RTD and Moffat? Were they just super fast and busy? Is it harder for Chibnall's team because technology has developed? Well, there's a question. A bit of both is probably the fairest answer to that question. I think, we might have discussed it before, but why not? It's always an interesting thing to discuss. I think RTD nearly killed himself doing a series a year, and that wasn't sustainable in the long term anyway. Moffat didn't do a series a year very often. He had a gap year here and there from the whole of 2016 was a gap year, among other things. So sort of there were big chunks in there, but clearly I think for Chris, it's Doctor Who does take longer to film now than it did, given the way, maybe that's just the way the production process is. Maybe that's their fault. I don't really know. What do you think, David? Do you think it's Chris's fault? Do you think it's the changing production processes? If you can put a sort of reason on it.
I don't really like to say.
No, fair enough. Fair enough.
But I don't really like to say, to be honest.
Fair enough.
Just because of some of the things that I've heard, and and that's not my place to talk about that.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yes. No, that's fair enough. That's fair enough. Right. Yeah, people saying Chris might come back. I think this is it's much more plausible than it was 5 years ago that Chris Eccleston would come back to the show, because he's actually kind of more involved in fandom, talking nicely about the show a bit more than he has ever done before. I'm still not convinced he will, but I feel like it's more plausible than it's ever been.
If Chris Eccleston comes back to the show, I will there will be no other level of excitement for me. Do you know what I mean? That will have been peak excitement for everything to me.
Yeah.
I'm not expecting it. No. I'm not going to be disappointed if he doesn't, because I can't see it. But if he does, I would bloody love it.
Yeah, exactly. Simple as that. I really want to see 12 back for the 60th. Of course I'm biased, but I just want to see his no-nonsense attitude deal with the other Doctors. It would be fascinating to see 12 come across from other Doctors, I think. Just because he is quite different to the other New Who Doctors, whereas I'm not saying David, Matt and Jodie are the same, but I feel like they're much closer in sort of style of Doctor than Peter, who's very much out on his own in his portrayal of the Doctor.
And I'm not sure I feel like he's been encapsulated in those Doctor stories. Like the last night's Doctor Assembled, I don't know what you felt, but I was like, I don't think the 12th Doctor is actually that abrasive.
Yes. Oh yeah. As we discussed before, it was very much caricatures of each Doctor being portrayed, and 12 was portrayed as the really angry, grumpy, broody one. But when in reality, he's not that. No.
And that is part of him, but there's much more complexity to him. Yeah. So I don't feel like that's quite sort of like, I'd be really interested to see what he's actually like with the other Doctors. I think that would be one of the most.
You'd hope that he is, if he were to come back, he isn't written in a caricature type way. They do take his character seriously. And particularly, it'd be very intriguing if, for example, it was Chris writing it, what Chris's take on each of those Doctors would be in a special. Yeah. Because Stephen's written has written at times all of those Doctors, but Chris has done occasional episodes, but hasn't really, and certainly has never touched 12. So just to give, and I guess part of me would have a slight concern based on Fugitive of the Jadoon and his portrayal of Captain Jack. We'll wait to see with Revolution of the Daleks as to whether that was just that episode and actually he can write him well. And
what did you like about Jack in Fugitive?
He just was playing what everybody imagines his character being rather than as Captain Jack. He just kind of yes, Captain Jack is that kind of funny, jokey, flirty type of character, but it just didn't feel like there was anything really in there that was interesting or different to just generic Captain Jack lines.
That's true. That's very true. He wasn't in it enough to give that development, but I don't know. This is the first time that I've thought about that, because I always think of Jack as two different characters. You have Doctor Who Jack and then Torchwood Jack.
That is true. They are very different, to be fair.
Barrowman himself says. Yeah. And he's like, I'll play those two very, very differently. And so I don't expect to see that sort of development within Doctor Who, because I don't think But yeah, I'd be interested to see. I think I agree with you. I'm really very excited for Christmas.
Yeah, seeing. I mean, although at the time we criticised the fact that they were filming a special in 2019 that wasn't going to go out until Christmas 2020.
Yeah.
Now we're like, wow, great decision, guys. That was so lucky.
It is really lucky
because,
to be fair.
And I think it might be Mandip Gill or one of the cast did an interview where she was like, yeah, it was pure luck that we filmed it when we did, and we're really lucky that we've got that in the bag and they were able to show that at Christmas because. Yeah, that'll probably go out Christmas Day because I haven't got any other TV. But yeah, being able to see Captain Jack back, well, we know he's coming back. We know he's in that episode. And it'll just be interesting because Chris, of course, was heavily involved in the Torchwood, particularly Series 2 of Torchwood. He basically executive produced. But as you've just said, he wrote Torchwood Captain Jack rather than Doctor Who Captain Jack. So to see when in a more fully fleshed out proper story how he writes Captain Jack's character, whether it's more of the tortured version of him that comes out or whether he goes too far back into the Doctor Who version that it's almost a nothingy character, I'll be really interested to see sort of where that lands.
Definitely.
In when we get to the special, which is going to be very, very interesting. Sorry, go for it.
No, I was just say, I was just reading some comments, and Richard says, I wonder if we might get some other Torchwood style spin-offs for the 60th. Chibnall obviously has form here. I would love to see a spin-off for the 60th.
Yes.
Elliot, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I would also, I would really like to see one. But I want one that actually works because we saw Class and we saw that did not work. I don't think it's wholly bad, but clearly it didn't work, and that's why it never got recommissioned and is never going anywhere. I think it's clear, based on all the evidence we have, that for a spin-off to work, it's got to have a clear fundamental link to the main show in the form of a character, not a school, a building. That doesn't make it a spin-off and a sort of engaging spin-off to the programme.
Go on, sorry.
I think the tricky thing is knowing what you do with the spin-off. Because I don't feel like there is, unless you go down the route of having a Doctor spin-off, which is, I'm not sure. I mean, for a long time people have said, oh, wouldn't it be great if Paul McGann had a spin-off series and all that? And I'm like, actually, I don't think that would be good for the show to try and have a spin-off Doctor Who with an old Doctor in. I just don't think that's right and necessary. So it brings you back to the spin-off. Yeah, it's not. It's just Doctor Who episodes with another Doctor. And so it just brings you back to the point of who's going to be in it. Yeah. As much as I like the idea, who's going to be in it?
Well, what I would love to see as a spin-off, because I've thought about this quite a lot this year, is because I read earlier this year the Sophie Aldred book, A Child to Ascend, where Ace meets the 13th Doctor. I think it's the most perfect backdoor pilot for a spin-off show with Ace. Because they sort of set her up as like she's now the CEO of Charitable Earth, but it's all sort of a facade for what she's really doing, which sort of being like any sort of Doctor Who companion on Earth, just going around investigating and stopping aliens or anything alien tech. But they just set up her world so well, and she's got a secret base and like the people around her. I just think it could make a brilliant series, like a sort of like 8x60. A Netflix series. I would love to see that happen, especially. So please, Chris Chibnall or whoever's in charge of Doctor Who at the 60th, make an Ace spin-off.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like she's kind of one of the most obvious candidates for it at the moment, because none of the new Who companions strike me as ones that have any reason or would have any interest in doing a spin-off. Personally.
Not yet.
Yeah, I think it needs the time for it. I do think that you would probably want to bring Ace into Doctor Who first for an episode before you do the spin-off. It's got to have that grounding in the main show first to then have a reason to sort of spin off from it.
That's what I felt right in the book, though. I was like, this is so much potential for it. I just want to see it on TV so it can make a backdoor pilot, and so we can do what we did with Sarah Jane and do an episode where you visit her and then see her on her own.
Yeah.
Because I think that could be really cool.
And as a couple of people mentioned there, Ace has got K9 now too, thanks to Farewell Sarah Jane. So there we go.
So that should totally be in the Netflix series. I completely forgot about that.
But can you get it off Bob Baker and Dave Martin, who have created it and trying to make those terrible films with him and him and Omega?
When K9's not filming for Timequake, he can come and film for the Ace Netflix series, because Time Quake is one of those things where it just is. It takes a long time to get that right. You
Yeah,
know?
the production process has been quite long, and I guess it's probably had another delay due to coronavirus.
Yeah.
Do we
I
know
mean, that's the
do we
only
know what
reason we
year
have.
production started on Timequake? Um, do you have any idea? I mean, I feel I should find
I
out
don't.
because you know.
I'm questioning why you said it in the past tense, as if production has started. I mean, who knows?
I mean, they wouldn't tell us if it had.
No.
Whatever happened to K9 Timequake? Let's see if anybody.
K9 Timequake is the 60th anniversary special. I'm not so bothered in seeing.
It was announced in 2015 that a movie featuring K9 Timequake would hit cinemas in 2017, but I haven't heard
Ah,
anything since. Yeah, like
maybe it was released by The Silence, who just
that is
created their own
true.
film production company.
Like I can't even find any press release about it or anything. Like I don't know if it actually exists. Oh, here's an article about it. Um, here we go. K9, the world's most famous robot dog, traverses the dimensions of space and time to become the latest robot star of the big screen. A new look, high-tech K9 for today's cinemas is being prepared for film stardom. The film K9 Timequake has been written by one of K9's original creators, Bob Baker, a renowned writer of classic Doctor Who serials. The new K9 will be appearing in a multi-million-dollar movie, which promises to be a great action adventure set in deep space. The film will be full of dashing heroes and heroines, androids, monstrous aliens, and an ultimate foe who will also be familiar to Doctor Who fans everywhere, the megalomaniac Omega. The film is to be a UK co-production with Exteriors filmed overseas and studio work planned for the UK. The film is currently slated for release in 2017, which will be K9's 40th birthday.
Well,
so there you go.
We can only dream.
October 2015.
Yeah, Paul Android said, my problems with most Doctor Who spin-offs are that they're all Monster of the Week. Doctor Who already does that. I want more long-form storytelling. That's something the main show can't do much of. I completely agree.
Yes.
And that's why, in my head, a spin-off with Ace, I think should be a more sort of like, it should be a Netflix-styled eight episodic. So
one overarching storyline through the whole thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which Yeah, so I would love to see that.
Like, I think that wouldn't have been, it wasn't needed back when Torchwood and Sarah Jane were, certainly earlier Torchwood and Sarah Jane were happening. Like, TV wasn't like that back then.
No.
But so, like, that's what Class should have done. And kind of tried to do, but also didn't really do. It was kind of still a bit Monster of the Week. And clearly, if any other spin-off comes, they just need to go full on down. Here's one big storyline to cover 8 episodes, and if you do another season, have another big storyline. Like, that's fine. You've got the main show doing a bit of Monster of the Week. Why can't you have a spin-off doing something different that's up to date with modern TV trends?
Different stories that just go through. It's like Fugitive of the Judo. I remember saying to you, I love that episode, and I was so excited about it because that wasn't Monster of the Week. Yes. Like, even though the Juduna are in that episode just for that week, it just felt, because none of those stories were actually properly resolved.
Yeah.
It just felt like one of those things where it would continue the next week. And so
that's what it desperately needed and didn't have. And it was so frustrating.
Yeah. But hopefully, we never know. It could go back to that, or like true. We can't.
I mean, I was reminded earlier this week of a quote. I can't remember, it was either Jodie or Chris gave at a screening shortly before The Time as Children aired, of saying about how a lot of stuff that has sort of come up so far wouldn't be resolved in series 12. And then a lot of it would carry over. And I think, kind of, given the amount of revelations we got in The Timeless Children, we've kind of almost forgotten this. They've talked about how the Timeless Child mystery wasn't going to be completely wrapped up in that episode. I mean, maybe they were just trying to not spoil it, but I also think that there's truth in that, and that actually this storyline is going to carry on substantially in Series 13, probably involving the Ruth Doctor. And more things will be explored around that, which is an interesting prospect, I think.
I've just got one more comment.
Do it.
I want to about this. Bo Radley said, how about spin-off with Rory as a captain of a spaceship that can go through time, preventing people changing history?
Oh, I wonder what show he could be referring to there.
Spaceship with Rory as a captain? What is that show?
I can't remember. It's the one that he's in. I can't remember what it's called, but it's the one that...
Arthur Darville's show, like...
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, tell us what that show is, please.
Legends of Tomorrow.
Oh, is he? Oh, that's hilarious. Because my comment to that was going to be, I'd actually love to see Rory in Torchwood, personally. We'll go back onto the subject 50, but I feel like we strayed a bit from our video thing. But I've always thought that Rory would be an excellent character to throw into Torchwood, not as a sort of like member of the gang, but sort of to encounter them and possibly go on a few missions for them.
Okay.
So if Big Finish want to hire me to tell them more about what my ideas are for Rory, you can.
There we go. Hit up David, Big Finish producers who are obviously watching this live stream. We love Doctor Who. We love Big Finish. Please send me copies and I'll review them for you, no problem. And David, get him writing for them as well. Be great. I think the one thing, as we bring it back to 50th anniversary, the one thing that I wanted to talk about in particular that we haven't mentioned is the thing that every single Doctor Who fan has tried to forget since the 23rd of November 2013. And that is, of course, Doctor Who Live, the Afterparty.
What are you talking about? It was amazing.
So, did you watch it at the... Actually, you probably didn't watch it at the time because you were in cinemas, I imagine, David.
No.
Did they didn't show it in the cinema, thankfully, I assume.
So, no, they didn't. I remember this, actually. So, I was really sort of like hot on the sort of like that there was an after-party straight after. And I was like, we're not staying around after the cinema sort of thing. We're getting home so I can watch the after party.
Yes.
But I watched the last 10 minutes of it. I think I saw the One Direction bit, maybe, if that was towards the end. But I only saw the last 10 minutes of it. And I only got to see the full thing years later, where thanks to a lovely little thing that you might know called BBC Redux, Elliot, I watched the Afterparty.
I don't know if I've actually ever seen it in full, and I couldn't find it online anywhere. So, if you want to, lend me a little cheeky login, I'd love to have a watch of it.
Well, that was the thing. Sadly, my Redux login doesn't work anymore. But,
really?
It wasn't online anywhere. That's why it took me so many watch it, but I have since watched the whole thing.
Guys in the chat, if you have a link to the actual Doctor the Afterparty, I'd love to be able to watch it again. So please do post. But yeah, from the bits I have seen, I can't remember if I watched it at the time or not, but from the bits I have seen, there is no denying it was a disaster. It is the thing that fans want to forget. It was just a not very well put together live event that tried to be too mainstream BBC Three when actually it should have just been nerdy Doctor Who celebration and would have been a lot better and more enjoyable for fans, because clearly nobody's going to switch over to BBC Three to watch a Doctor Who special live edition and wants to see the One Direction. Like, that's just not going to happen. It
was an odd mix of sort of tones, and I always feel quite sad because I think I've read a couple of like interviews with people who play companions, and they feel like they were treated very well by it, or sort of like they were in it for a second and they thought they were going to get more, and so that is quite sad. I appreciate the sentiment of what they were doing, was trying to get all those companions in a room, and that's quite special in itself. But the execution didn't really work on screen. But I'm sorry, I do try and find like positives in everything. I was just thinking like that didn't quite get it right. But then when you had Doctor Who: The Next Doctor, which was that in the same year, or
that was before.
That was earlier that year.
That was in August. That was the 5th of August 2013.
Because they actually did that really well.
I've completely forgotten that they happened that way round.
Yeah.
I always thought, they did the terrible one and then they fixed it and did the better one.
Yeah.
But no, they didn't. They did it well the first time and then screwed it up.
Okay, I can't find a positive in that, because I was going to say how they learned from it and then they did it better. But they didn't, because they did the better one. And then, if it had been more like the Peter Capaldi live reveal, which was really well put together, I thought.
Yeah.
That could have been better. It was sort of, it was just one of those things. But you have episodes of Doctor Who in a season which are rubbish. It's sort of, there has to be something in the 50th anniversary collection of stuff that's rubbish. Yes. And thank God it was that. And not anything else.
And a fun fact about it that I shared with you, David, yesterday, I feel I should share with fans, is that it was produced, this programme, by Russell Minton, who now heads up the Doctor Who Blu-ray range, along with Chris Chapman, also heavily involved, who was is now one of the producers on the Doctor Who Blu-ray range, making amazing stuff for classic Who fans, but were also in charge of that train wreck of a television show. So yeah, there's something you probably didn't expect, but
Well,
yeah,
at least they're
it's
making brilliant classic Doctor Who now.
yeah, that's the one positive we can take from it. The Guardian called it a debacle, apparently.
Oh,
The Moth had his head in his hands in horror, apparently, as well. The
really?
treatment of the former companions was unforgivable.
Yeah.
The Radio Times said about the story. Yeah, they were pretty. I just remember there were some really bad moments with old companions where they were just blatantly ignored. I think somebody even got like pushed off the edge of the sofa when somebody came to try and sit down. One of the old
Really?
companions, apparently, or something like that. It was just a real mess and disaster all round. And so clearly we've tried very hard to forget that as well.
And now you brought it back into everyone's memory. Idiots, well done.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, yeah, we it's one of those things we can just remember and laugh, and knowing we probably won't really ever see it again as well, kind of it'll just be that always that just, do you remember that time when One Direction did that terrible thing with Doctor Who? And I think
And One Direction are like, no, what? Sorry, what was that we did?
yeah, exactly. And I think because apparently they hadn't even seen the episode as well. So like I think Zoe Ball's first question was about the episode, and they were like, "Oh, we haven't seen it," and then
Yeah.
it got into that horrendous 15-second loop thing that just kept repeating itself into a complete disaster, and then they walked off. And yeah, so that was Doctor Who: The Afterparty. And is it a surprise there's never been another Doctor Who live since then?
No, and that's just again looking to the 60th anniversary, a Doctor Who after party. I'm not too worried about it. If they want to leave that out, that's fine for me.
Yeah,
You know?
I don't feel desperate for them to do a 60th anniversary edition of that. Maybe when we get round to the new series of the Blu-ray collections, they can do one of those behind the sofa features for the after party,
No,
where they get cast and crew to sit and sit through that again. Do you think they could pay them enough money to come and sit through that again?
I just don't think anyone should be subjected to that. I think that's sort of the thing. If some tapes want to be accidentally lost, or in today's world, if they want to accidentally delete some files from the use of computers, that's what they should delete.
Yeah. But as you say, it's in BBC Redux. It's archived for life now.
Yes.
They're not going to accidentally lose that. So I'm sure. I think apparently one of the main problems is the licensing of releasing anything like that with the amount of people and things involved in it. It would be nigh impossible to actually get it cleared for release. So in reality, it's unlikely to ever get a physical release. Whether anybody wants it or not is another matter. But yes. So that was Doctor Who Live: The Afterparty. One other thing I wanted to kind of have a little chat about, just if you remember it, was just did you take an extra interest in the classic series at all during 2013? Like, obviously, there was a lot of kind of discussion around and sort of interest in the whole show, not just New Who, because it was celebrating the whole history of Doctor Who. I remember, I think it was Watch back in the day, that we used to be UK TV Gold and became different names and stuff, showed like a story from each Doctor on their channel like every Saturday or something for a few weeks. And I remember always tuning into each of those when I was sort of first getting more into Classic Who again and watching that. I vividly remember stumbling in halfway through Tomb of the Cybermen and just sitting down, watching the rest of it, and that was it. I was all good again, hooked on it, and just I think I watched all of those. I think the show for Spear from Space, and I can't remember what the Fourth Doctor one was, but yeah. Did you have any sort of extra delve into Classic Who in that year?
I did. I was about to say I could probably tell you what all the stories were if you had a list. They were. I'm pretty sure the first Doctor they showed the Aztecs.
That sounds about right.
Yeah, second Doctor, as you say, is Toon Cybermen. Third Doctor, Sphere heads from space. Pretty sure the fourth Doctor was the Talons of Wing Chiang.
Oh.
Fifth Doctor, I'm not sure. I think the sixth Doctor they showed Vengeance of Varos.
That sounds about right.
Obviously, the eighth was a movie, and now the seventh. I'll think of the fifth and the seventh part as well. But basically, I do remember all of these being shown because I recorded them all on like DVDs. Because this was in the days where we don't have like Sky or whatever. And you remember when you could like record a DVD? I mean, you still can.
I used to have one of those players. Yeah, absolutely.
So I recorded every single one of them, and I didn't sit there for those few hours and watch them like that. Because I didn't think. Yeah, I just wasn't. I was like, I want to have them so I can watch them one day.
Yeah.
And some of them actually, dreadfully, I still haven't watched. But yeah, so I remember being those and seeing those and thinking they were really, really cool. And also like there were books like this one. Sorry, I've just got my bookcase here.
Go for it.
Like Biology was released that year, which is sort of like a celebration of all of Doctor Who and just fun facts from the whole history of Doctor Who.
Okay, yeah.
One of the most beautiful books I think ever to be released is The Vault, which is like 50. What does it say? Treasures from the first 50 years. Which beautifully, sorry, because I've got it now, I have to show you. The camera plans. That's the set plans.
Oh, that's so cool.
Got stuff like that in it. So that's like
cool.
the whole history of Doctor Who. It's a beautiful book. So things like that I loved. I absolutely loved treasuring into.
That is really cool.
And I think that year actually was when I bought I'm certain it was when I bought my beginning box set, which is the first 3 stories in Unearthed Child, Dalek, and in Edge of Destruction. So I would have watched those that year.
Mm-hmm.
So so I did catch the bug like everyone else, just in different ways.
Yeah. Wow. I somehow have stumbled across a like combined TV schedule of the 23rd of November 2013 across all channels and radio for Doctor Who.
Wow.
So it tells us everything Doctor Who related that was on TV and radio on that day. Graham Norton live from the Doctor Who celebration in London on Radio 2. Doctor Who A Blue Peter Party. They showed Doctor Who and the Daleks, the Cushing movie on Channel 5.
Remember... Oh, sorry.
No, go for it.
I remember this Doctor Who special on the Graham Norton show, like the actual the TV show, like which was probably a few nights before, which was quite cool. Where Matt and were in that. Mm-hmm. But
they showed Infinite Quest, Wedding of Sarah Jane Smith, Dreamland, Death of the Doctor, Night of the Doctor on the Red Button. They had a Doctor Who Pointless that evening.
Yeah,
then,
I remember.
Of course, they had you had Doctor Who Live the Afterparty, Doctor Who The Ultimate Guide, Five-ish Doctors Reboot. All those kind of things. It was a crazy day to be a Doctor Who fan, let's be honest.
Yes.
There was just so much content. And throughout that year, to be fair, they showed us so much stuff on TV related to the show just to get people excited and being like, Doctor Who is back and it's great. It's really cool. Actually, I can probably find you the list of the classic stories. I've done it. I've found it.
I think my gaps have been filled in by Justin Atkinson, who says 7 was the Curse of Fenric, and I think Paul Android is right in saying that it was the Pyramids of Mars as the fourth Doctor one, instead of Talons. But the 5th Doctor, was it Time Flight?
Earthshock.
Oh, well, of course it was Earthshock. That was just... I was trying to think of what 5th Doctor story was. I was like, I can't remember. I was trying to remember what I'd written on my DVD. But I remember it being up.
They showed them. So what was that on the 8th of November? Then the 12th the 11th, the 12th, the 13th, 14th, 15th, 16th. Did they show on the 16th? They showed the movie. They showed Battlefield. Battlefield was the 7th Doctor one, not Curse of Fenric. It was Battlefield.
Oh.
And the TV movie as well before it aired. So there we go. Isn't that cool? Bit of nostalgia there from those the little classics experience. And I do remember for me that time was when I got into the classics, sort of properly into the classic series again. And I remember thanks to the powers of Daily Motion that at the time had swathes of Classic Who on it, that I basically in I think maybe 1 or 2 months binged. Well, firstly the Invasion. And then from the War Games through to Robots of Death in about 2 months. So that's 7 years of Doctor Who from 1969 to 77. I was just absolutely loving it at the time. And I was just like, let's go for it. And so just every night I was just sticking it on and just binging my way through it. And it was great fun. And sort of since then I have been as into Classic Who as I am to New Who now, I think. Sort of from that experience of just going full on, I'm going to binge all of John Pertwee's era and a load of Tom Baker. And that's kind of why as well I think John Pertwee became my favourite era of the show, just sort of watching it like that and seeing it all in quick succession and just realising how much I was enjoying that part of the programme as well. Kind of brought it in for me there. So
I think it's sort of how you got into Classic Who that year. I mean, the Big Finish 50th anniversary they did the end, which was the multi-Doctor story. That was the first audio I ever heard of, and you know how much I love the audios. Now I listen to quite a lot of them. And so, it was just a great year for sort of exploring new Doctor Who stuff and new areas of Doctor Who that we hadn't seen before.
Exactly. Right, we've been going quite a while, so I think we will draw this to a close. Do you have any sort of closing thoughts on 2013 as a year? Clearly, it's a nostalgic and wonderful time to remember as a Doctor Who fan. Sadly, we probably won't hit the heights of that year again, realistically, but it's still something to very fondly look back on. So yeah, what are your kind of final
I just
thoughts or
think
comments?
it was just such a cool year. I'm very glad that I was a young age when it was, because you just sort of didn't really expect it. And I think, to me, it was just that Doctor Who was cool again. And I don't really care if other people like it, but just to see that sort of recognition for your show. And I love that I'm a Doctor Who fan. I think is my comment to it.
That was kind of, as I said, after the Day of the Doctor, that was my overriding feeling of I just love this show so much. It's the best show there is, and nothing's ever going to top it. Like, no, it may not always be my favorite show I've watched that year in terms of like that series of it, but it's more than that. It's the whole thing. It's the whole franchise, the whole idea behind the program that I think is something that I just love so much. And just 2013 was such a real celebration of that. And where, as you say, it was cool to be a Doctor Who fan, and there was all this exciting content that you could get excited about with your friends and not feel like you're going to be frowned upon by people for saying you're nerdy or whatever for liking it for that short period of a few months in 2013. So yeah, it just was I think a really happy time to be a Doctor Who fan. And of course, I always live in hope that we'll reach a stage like that again with Doctor Who. I think that the start of Jodie's era came close to that, but unfortunately the stories weren't there to keep that going. And sadly, the shows, I guess, kind of moved into quite a toxic fan base and all this kind of thing now, which has always been there to an extent, but I feel like is worse now, sadly. But it's always nice to fondly remember all the wonderful things that came out of 2013.
And I'm sure one day it'll get back there in whatever variation that it is.
Exactly.
Yeah,
I certainly think so. Hello, Megan. If you've just joined, I'm sorry. We are literally just finishing.
Hi, Megan. Bye, Megan.
I'm really sorry, but we have been here for an hour and a half. Let's have a look at a couple of last few comments. Battlefield was a weird choice for best Seventh Doctor story. I don't know if they picked the best or just the ones they could get the license for, because they couldn't always get
I love Battlefield. I will say that.
But yeah, it's quite a nice story. Day of the Doctor getting the Guinness World Record for most countries simulcasting was a pretty cool moment. That is true. Yeah, it got the Guinness World Record for the TV broadcast with the most simultaneous sort of countries in the world watching it at the same time, which is pretty cool. So yeah, I'm sorry, Megan. I'm sorry that I've broken your heart with the end of this stream. But yeah, I hope you guys have enjoyed it and this reminisce and reminder of 2013. Please do check out the rest of the videos coming up as part of 50th anniversary week. We've got, already Named the Doctor, Megan Reacts went up yesterday, so do check that out if you haven't already. Don't miss the 5-ish Doctors reboot reaction tomorrow. Night of the Doctor on Wednesday. David, are you going to join us for the pub quiz on Friday? Are you going to come and compete and see if you can take a moisture test? It's going to be really fun. Hopefully, me and Megan are going to host a Doctor Who quiz that you guys can all join in at home. There'll be a way for you to kind of get involved, and if I can sort it out, there might be some sort of prize, but I don't want to guarantee it because I don't really know at the moment. So we'll see. And then to top off this week with the Day of the Doctor reaction next Saturday. So I hope you guys have enjoyed this stream. Thank you very much for coming and joining us, David, as well. It's been great fun. Have you enjoyed it?
It's been lovely.